Today.
Here we are once again in one of the coldest places in southern Africa.
Yes, probably is actually.
Why are we doing this to ourselves?
I don't know. In winter, and we're recording in the shade.
It's such a beautiful place. We're at Maliba Mountain Lodge in northern Lesotho.
Yeah.
We got up at dawn to come and find a nice spot to record, and we found it. A beautiful gorge stream which is just trickling along, as you can hear, I'm sure, and mostly frozen.
Yeah, a lot
like
of ice.
Our
Yeah.
asses.
Yeah. But this is something that's stood out for us, right? Is every waterfall or river that we've gone past in Lesotho has been frozen.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
Well, how have you thought of this trip? Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, loved it. You know, obviously, like we said in the car, first time to Lesotho. So, it's the first time I've spent this much time here, and I've really enjoyed it, man. It's such a nice experience. It's so unique, very different to South Africa, and obviously enclosed by South Africa. So, nice place to add on to a trip and give you like a completely different experience.
I loved it. Thanks for organising, mate.
Yeah, no problem.
And what's made it all the more special is it's been my first adventure in a Suzuki Jimny with Tread Lite.
Yeah.
And what a great business you've built up, mate.
Thanks, man.
And I know you've told me so much about it in the past.
Yeah.
But for the first time to actually get behind the wheel and experience what it's like to do a self-drive in South Africa and Lesotho. As you're going to find out in this episode, we've recorded a few segments of our journey as we went along, and it's stood up to everything it promised to be.
Yeah.
And more.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it's been nice for me to be kind of in the car with you experiencing a Jimny for the first time, because obviously I spent so much time in those vehicles and I'm such a big fan. So it was really nice to kind of see it from your perspective as well.
And I'm glad to see most of what you've spoken about hasn't been complete bollocks.
Yeah. Oh, really? Oh, that's good.
So let's chat about our journey, mate.
Yeah.
We set off in Durban. So you've got a hub in Durban, Cape Town and Johannesburg.
Yes, correct.
And you can easily do drop-offs in Kruger, but we're not going to go into details on the bits and pieces. But we picked up one of your vehicles in Durban. We set off to Sani Pass. Talk us a little bit about why you wanted to take us to Lesotho, the Mountain Kingdom.
You know, Sani Pass it's a really big attraction if you're an adventurous kind of person and you enjoy driving mountain passes and kind of back road travel, then Sani Pass is on top of a lot of people's lists of things to experience. It is a very rugged road, as you experienced, so you definitely need a 4x4 to kind of navigate those roads. So the Jimny is well suited to that. So that's why I thought, you know, let's come and check it out and see what it's like. Get out of Durban. And the nice thing is it's really close to Durban, as you saw. You know, I mean, we were in the Underberg. We left there in the morning, got to the Underberg, had breakfast there, and then we had the whole day to just explore this beautiful pass. And obviously, it gets really high. It's one of the highest road passes in southern Africa, and has the highest pub in Africa on the top. So that is an attraction in itself. And then it's really cool to spend a night on the top. I think, you know, some people want to drive up Sani Pass and back down again in a day, which I think you can do, but it's nice to just slow down a bit, you know, which is what we experienced there. It's Sani Mountain Lodge. It's a really cool place, you know, drive up top there, take it easy, get out and kind of really explore the top of that pass.
Why don't we cut away and show everyone that little session that we did recording as we were driving up the mountain.
Yeah.
We'll kick it from when we got to the top of Sani Pass.
Brilliant. Sounds good.
Nice one.
Great. And freeze the arse. This is Go Audio on Sani Pass 1.
Okay, Stu, your first job of this audio recording is to please check your phone. Let's get our altitude, current distance from the top of Sani Pass.
So we are currently sitting at, if I could get the compass out, it's not easy with the road bumping around. Here we go. We're currently sitting at 2,560 meters of elevation. We probably don't have too much further to go in terms of distance. It's probably, if I recall, it's about probably 3 or 4 kilometers. I don't think it's much longer than that.
Amazing.
But you can see it gets progressively steeper, right, as you get to the end section here into the mountains.
Yeah, and we're in a beautiful setting right now. We are in a what can only be described as an amphitheater of mountains. Steep on all sides, rocky gravel gorge going down, touched by all these beautiful emerald grassy slopes. It's freaking gorgeous, eh?
Yeah, I actually like the description you used earlier where you said it's like you're inside a painting, right? You kind of like, everywhere you look, there's just this landscape, like these towering mountains over you, and then down into the valley, which is like really cool. When you're like halfway up the pass, there's this nice like stop point where you can just like look down into the valley, which I think is also amazing. You know, you kind of get both of it, you know, looking up what's still to come, and then also where you've come from. It's a really cool experience.
Great. And what do you think of my driving so far?
Yeah, not bad. I mean, what do you think of your first? This is quite an introduction to Jimny driving for you, having never really driven one before.
Yeah.
And here you are on the Sani Pass, you know, checking out the rugged terrain.
I'm loving it, mate. I feel honestly like, I know this is a small engine, and so obviously the power is not massive, but as you drive along, you can feel that the car is light and maneuverable and small. So you feel like you feel absolutely secure and powerful.
Yeah.
Like, and we've had some big cars go past us in high range, whining.
Yeah. And I think it's also
Sure, man.
I think it's also the responsiveness, you know, because the car is small and like compact. It's quite nice and responsive on a road like this, where you actually want a smaller vehicle, right? I mean, this road's narrow, especially as we get to the top here with these hairpin bends, as you're going to see just now. You know, to navigate a big car around here does take a bit of work. So it's quite nice in the Jimny. It's kind of nuggety and small, and but yet completely capable, right?
Yeah, and you can hear now. I mean, we're basically at as steep as we're going to be on this pass. I mean, we're at a pretty high degree of vertical climb, and listen to the engine right now. I mean, you really cannot hear any issues. It's just trundling along.
Yeah,
quietly. We
absolutely.
can hear the surroundings. It's not a rumbling diesel motor.
No.
So nice.
Yeah, and it's just like, you know, they call it. Now that I'm trying to say it, I'm going to forget what they call it. People often call the Jimny a mountain goat, because it's like, you know, it's just like that. It can slowly crawls up the mountain, you know, gets the job done, gets you to the top, nice and easy, which is I think is a cool description of it.
Oh, we're not in a rush, eh?
No, I mean, that's the point, you know. I mean, like, just from an experience perspective with Sani Pass, I don't think you should ever try to rush this pass and get to the top like quickly, because you just miss it, right? I mean, it's about stopping, taking it in.
Yeah.
There's so many viewpoints, and the scenery changes dramatically. That's what I really like about it. Like, now we like right up top. It looks like that waterfall is iced over. Look at that.
Oh, it is as well.
And
talking of stopping over, I think we might have to do that just now.
Yeah.
The view is. Look at the view behind us, dude.
Yeah, that is remarkable. I think we stop here and get a photo of the view.
We're just going to pull up here.
Yeah.
Temperature-wise, how would you describe the current climate?
Well, the temperature gauge doesn't say it's that bad, but the wind is blowing, so there's a definite chill factor with the wind blowing, which is probably why it's icy, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's literally icy streams right in front of us.
The temperature gauge is telling us 16 degrees. When you're out the car, it definitely feels nothing like 16 degrees.
The jacket is coming out. Look at that view,
Look at that,
man. Oh, my word.
Okay, here we go. Let's have a look at that.
What it was?
I mean, I think one thing, like having never driven it, like it's a challenge so far. It's a challenging pass, right? But you feel it's manageable, or like from how experienced do you think you need to be on this pass and doing this thing?
Oh, not experienced at all, honestly. I think the only thing I would comment on, having seen other drivers cruise around here, is that, you know, a lot of them are in low range unnecessarily.
Yeah.
I mean, there's absolutely no need for low range in this Jimny, I feel, at any point so far on this pass. I mean, it's very steep, but the vehicle's so light. It's so light that it's just absolutely bumbling along in four-wheel drive.
Yeah.
And it's not highly technical in terms of areas that you need to speed up or slow down or use a particular 4x4 technique. But you can't do this without a 4x4. That's the beauty of it. No. So you are adventuring, and you're having to concentrate. Like, you you can't blindly drive along the road and pay no attention to where you're going. You need to sort of plant the wheels in the right spot, but it's fun. Like, I mean, it's every boy's dream, bumbling up a mountain pass, but I think every girl's dream as well, because it's just fun being in this environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I mean, you rent a Jimny, and then you drive it around for a few days. You get accustomed to it. You're used to the size and everything. Then you come and tackle something like Sani Pass. You know, it's very manageable, right? And it's a great kind of experience to add to a trip where, like, because you got the Jimny, it gives you access to this sort of thing, whereas normally you wouldn't have this as an option.
Yeah, absolutely. And to add to what you were saying is, it's automatic, of course, so you don't have to worry about changing gears or anything. We're literally driving along, one hand with the microphone and one hand on the steering wheel.
Yeah.
Talking of, do you feel like a tonsil driving up the mountain pass with a microphone?
No, something I've never done before.
I mean, the way that Oak was looking at us, he probably thinks we're famous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, we are.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, we've got 1,300 followers on Instagram. Yeah. Look at this river, completely frozen over.
I think we go to that one up there where it's thicker.
Oh, look at
that.
that.
To get up a little bit higher. Maybe just wait for this.
Do you think I can
pass
here?
To come down, let him sneak through here. So go up there.
Yeah, so I can pass.
Yeah, let him pass us, and then we can go up to that point there. We'll stop up there, I think.
Okay, cool. Nice.
Jeez, it's completely frozen over.
Yeah.
So yeah, apart from feeling a little bit like plonkers every now and then when we were holding our microphones recording as we drove up the hill, it was brilliant. It was good fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great.
Testing really out the vehicle, and as you hear it really performed well and better. It was fun, a little bit technical, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And let's talk about Sani Pass Mountain Lodge, because that's where we stayed for the night.
Yeah.
What did you think? It's the first time you stayed there for ages. What did you think of the place?
Yeah, so I loved it. I mean, I've stayed there before. I did an up and downer the last time I did Sani Pass, so this time it was nice to stay at the top. You can have a beer, have a Maluti beer, which is obviously the local Lesotho beer, so you know that's nice. You can kind of get into that vibe, and it's very simple, unassuming almost. The rooms are really cool, like little round rondavels. What I loved about the rooms is the fireplace inside, and then there's a chap who comes in and out and just puts logs on the fire, so the thing's running kind of most of the afternoon, and when you get back from dinner you get into a really nice warm room, which is really cool. They're nice small cozy little rooms, and of course you get the pub and the restaurant, and I thought the food was really good.
Food was excellent.
So, and there's a really cool vibe there. You know, obviously being the highest pub in Africa, it attracts quite a lot of people and people from all over. So you get this like really nice mix, and it's a small pub. Hey? It's like you kind of in the pub. It's cold outside, so you got this warm vibe going inside with some nice food. Yeah, it was nice, man. It was just nice to chat to people there and
a typical traveller's intersection, isn't it?
Yeah,
with all
that's
the foreign currencies in a frame and flags and things from all over the world.
Yeah.
And what I love about it is that you actually cross into no man's land up the Sani Pass, don't you?
Yes, correct.
You stamp out of South Africa, and then you go all the way up the top, and then you only stamp into Lesotho just there by Sani Pass Mountain Lodge.
Exactly.
And I really felt like we had stepped into another country. The settlement there was very traditional Basotho style.
Yes.
Of sheep herders, shepherds, that kind of thing, and small rocky huts.
Yeah.
And the best thing we did, wasn't it, was put our bags down. We found out that there was a geezer that was going to light our fire and warm up our room. We had a Maluti beer, and then we went for a wander. Yeah. And that was brilliant, wasn't it? Because you feel like a lot of people might get to the lodge and just settle in and wait for dinner, or sit on the deck, or wait to do their next activity or drive the next day. Yeah. Whereas take a camera, take your partner and go and have a little walk around that little settlement. And there's some incredible, beautiful old huts. Yeah. And we bumped into some really lovely people as well.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. I mean, even like you said, it's quite easy to get stuck into that pub up top there and just not leave there because it's warm and everything. But I think you almost miss some of the Sani Mountain experience if you do that. That's why, I think what we did was great. You get out, you walk down. We stopped at that little shop. The lady who has a tiny little shop that sells bits and pieces. She was lovely, you know. I mean, you chatted to her. We learned a little bit about like the similarities between Lesotho and Botswana, which I think was really cool. You know? I mean, we wouldn't have learned that if we didn't chat to her. And then I walk along that into that like a village, I suppose you could call it, or homesteads. It was different, you know. It's not like you don't see anything like that in South Africa. So it's quite a cool experience, and just to take it in and just slowly. It's not a long walk or anything. We just walked into the field and just kind of photographed some sheep and tried to photograph a horse, but it had a blanket. And then a silver blanket.
And then we tried to look for sheep with bells, so that we could get that classic sort of livestock sound.
Exactly.
Struggled there as well. But we got an epic sunset and some lovely still photographs that you've got.
The next morning, instead of getting up and having breakfast, we decided to get up before sunrise. And what did you think of that?
It was brutal. I mean, it's the mountains. So it's called the Mountain Kingdom for a reason. And obviously, mountains being mountains, it's unpredictable weather-wise. There was 50, 60 kilometers an hour wind, and it was icy. But we're not afraid of getting out in the elements. You know, it's always rewarding.
100%.
Whenever you get up early for sunrise, doesn't matter the conditions. Something will reward you when you're traveling in Africa. And we watched the sun. We didn't actually see the sunrise per se because it was behind the mountain. What we saw was it fill up that valley, the Sani Pass Valley.
Exactly.
With light. It was gorgeous.
You know, there's something about like standing in anticipation and then like just watching the sun fill through in the pub afterwards. They've got breakfast going, the fire's going, so you can warm up. And we didn't actually venture that far off. We were hiding behind the pub pretty much because the wind was just, I don't think we would have survived in the all out in the elements, but hey, at least we did it. And I mean, I think, you know, so many people talk about sunsets in Africa because I suppose everyone's awake. But if you're up for it, get up and watch the sunrise, especially in a place like that. It's just mind blowing. Right?
And now it's also worth noting as a final tip on our stay and experience there, it is 2,800 and something meters. That's a significant height, and you are likely to experience slight altitude sickness. I'm certainly prone to it. I don't think you really did, but all it does is it just means that you might have a bit of a restless night's sleep. So don't be surprised. Like the beds are warm, hot water bottle, fire going in the corner, and I was just like, we were tired. I was like, I was asleep. But we had a bit of a bad night's sleep, but it's fine. You know, the thing is, you nail that altitude on the first night, and then the rest of your stay in Lesotho, you'll be down a little bit lower. So you'll be good to go.
Yeah, and one other thing is if you're a hiker, remember there's that hike that's not far from there, which gets you to one of the highest points in Lesotho, or is it the highest point?
It is the highest point in Southern Africa. It's 3,000. I'm going to say 3,800 meters. Fact check alert. It'll be in the notes of the podcast.
Most people spend a night at Sani Mountain Lodge. You could probably add a second if you're an avid hiker and you enjoy walking, because there's a lot of walking stuff around there.
Definitely.
So it's worth it.
That's the beauty of booking with you. Is that you have set itineraries on your website and stuff, but it's about gauging what the type of traveller is. If they love hiking, then you definitely want to consider another night there to do that big trek up there. It's about 10, 11 hours day trip from Sani Pass. But okay, well, we love that place. Old school lodge, let's be honest. Cute people, lovely dinner, lovely pub, and just, I feel like somewhere iconic that you got to stay in that area.
Yeah, if you're in Lesotho, you got to be trying to spend a night there, right, and taking it all in.
Nice one.
Very cool. Basically, we went from Sani Mountain Lodge through to, the plan was to drive through to Maliba, which is where we are now. Not a long driving distance, but certainly took us a better chunk of the day. So what did you think?
I loved it. I mean, we set off at a good time, so we allowed ourselves lots of journey time. We weren't pushing it, and I think that's the key with any Tread Lite Jimny trip is
100%.
It's not about rushing from place to place, cruising along. Well, I think the best way to share a little bit about the sort of the road tripping experience in the Jimny is to cut away to our little segment when we were driving around about lunchtime without a lunch, because we we had a big breakfast, so we could push away all the way through to dinner.
Yeah.
We lacked some snacks, but that'll be our final feature, our tips for road tripping in Lesotho.
Okay, Stu, time to roll, dude. So we've just climbed a series of massive hairpin bends. We set off this morning from Sani Mountain Lodge. Took a load of videos and stills, stopped off on the way, have admired the view, and then we've been powering through the highlands of Lesotho.
Yeah. And we saw an ice rat.
And we saw an ice rat, which was, we have to verify the sighting in terms of its actual name, but I'm pretty sure it's known as the ice rat. I mean, it had an ice cold temperament.
I've never seen a rat so still in my life.
Great footage available. You'll see some pictures somewhere on our social media, on our website, because Stuart leopard crawled through the heather to get an epic shot of that ice rat, and he just stared him down.
Yeah, he never moved. Couldn't believe it. But I don't think he could move. I think it was, what was the temp there was 1 degrees with wind chill factor.
Minus something, -5, -6.
Crazy, man.
Yeah.
That was almost at the highest point that we've driven today, right?
Yeah, we went up to
3,470,
wasn't it?
Something like
3,470 meters. No, we've been up and up, but the purpose of now's chat is to go through, not in like the www.cars.co.za style of reviewing of this motor car, and especially for my comments, because this is the first time I've done a long, good stint driving this car. So we want to talk a little bit about how the Jimny suits a self-driver from anywhere, really, from South Africa or wherever you're from, or overseas. Maybe you are a Suzuki Jimny lover, or it's your first time ever trying to rent this car. So we wanted to chat a little bit about what you can expect from it, really, and what my experience was. And not just about its performance, but what it means to drive a Jimny, right?
Yeah.
And I know you are sold, hook, line and sinker, and you've told me a lot about it, but I cannot believe, mate, how so much of what you've said has revealed itself as we've done this trip over the last 24 hours.
It's amazing, right?
It is, yeah, it's a cult.
It is, yeah.
It's a cult, and for all the right reasons. But let's chat about, as you're driving along, I mean, we've done the hard stint, which was the physical Sani Pass, which is off-road. We've got a nice little segment from climbing up the hill and talking about that as we went along. But now, as we're driving on the tar road in Lesotho, we're cruising along, basically like classic road trip style.
Yeah.
And how the car feels to you. How would you describe that right now?
Yeah, I think, I mean, one thing that stands out for Lesotho certainly is the amount of passes and hairpins and tight turns that you're doing here. So it's not a fast drive at all. I mean, I don't think you'd want to do Lesotho at a high pace. But the vehicle's been great. It's also we're driving at very high altitude, so it is a 1.5 petrol engine. So there's definitely an impact there, but it's actually been surprisingly really good, managing the hills and just driving at a really good solid pace that's good for touring. I mean, you're not trying to rush through here. You want to stop and you want to take it all in. So I think the Jimny's really nice for that. And for me, it's also, with all these tight turns and all of that, I find the Jimny's really nice because it's quite small. It's a shorter car than normal. So you feel more in control around those hairpin bends and those tight turns.
How was that pothole?
Yeah, that was a pretty big one.
That was a big pothole. Well handled, mate.
I was desperately trying to navigate the pothole without the car making
and
noise.
sound intelligent.
And sound like I knew what I was saying. I think I did okay.
Yeah,
Not
you
great.
Yeah.
Some more bumps. And I mean, the other thing is that these particular roads are narrow, right? So, when you're driving here with the Jimny, it's nice. Also, you don't feel like you dominating the road or that you're struggling when cars and stuff are coming past you. So, generally for me, it's been a really nice drive. It's been a good experience. I actually haven't driven in Lesotho before, so I'm really chuffed that we've done it in the Jimny.
Yeah.
I'd say we've said it already in our previous segments, and I'm sure we'll say it again, but it's an amble car. Like, this is not about covering vast distances and staying one night in various places. If you're going to do that, you're going to find the Jimny too slow for you and not fast enough, let's be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
It's about nipping around, staying a couple of nights at a place, and taking in your journey as you go along. And if you're going to cruise along at a sensible speed and listen to the engine and how it performs, you're just going to enjoy yourself. There was only really one segment when we were at high altitude, and it was a very steep incline. It was about 45 degrees.
Yes.
And that was the only time when the Jimny was struggling to find its gear. But we just slowed it right down.
Yep.
And yeah, considering the miles and the mountain passes we've covered, I absolutely love driving this car.
Yeah, and I mean, I think just on your point on if you're the type of person who likes to really take in a place and take it slow, and you're not trying to tick off as many places on a short trip as possible, then the Jimny is very well suited to you. It's certainly not a race car, but it's not supposed to be that. So, if that's the kind of holiday that you enjoy, and you like to take in the scenery, and you want to kind of be part of the place where you're at, then I think it's a really good fit, and that's what our guests love about them, right?
Yep, totally. Okay, cool. Let's talk a little bit about the emotional side of the Jimny, because I've got lots of things I need to talk to you about. You Oaks and your cult going on here. But first of all, we set off in Underberg. We're heading up the Sani Pass, and who pulls up next to us?
The Jimny.
Another Jimny, same color, but the 3-door, not the 5-door. Anyway, so of course, what do you call it? The Jimny rules?
Yeah, Jimny. Yeah, basically the owners, people who own Jimnys in South Africa, they have a set number of rules or a code that they abide by. So, yeah.
So he gives us a beep, 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 and the conversation starts rolling. And I just love the fact that obviously you first start chatting about how you've enjoyed driving up the hill and all of that, and he asks you how your 5-door compares to what his 3-door is, and a bit of the technical talk. What I love about it is the smile on people's faces. It's just like it's all about how you get this small vehicle to work for you, and enjoy it. And it's such a great conversation starter. It's like, and then immediately you're part of a bond. Like, you've got this bond, you've got part of a club. We exchanged drinks, didn't we?
Yes.
From each other's cooler boxes, and off we went up the hill. And yeah, we saw him later on at the top of the mountain pass. And of course, I'm intrigued. You know a lot more than I do, so I was asking him loads of questions. And he's a big Afrikaans guy, this guy.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's important to know that. He's not a small guy.
No, he's a big chap. And I asked him, and I just said straight up, okay, what is it that you love about the Jimny? And I loved his response. It was just like, makes me feel like I'm 18 again. He didn't even hesitate to answer that. And I think, he was probably, knocking on sort of 55 years old.
Yeah. But you could see the kind of the joy in his face when he said that. That was it's like a kid. It's like the kid thing. You're like, he's in his element, exploring in his Jimny.
Yeah. And he said that when he's driving it, he feels absolutely comfortable.
Yeah.
Like, even though he's a big guy, the seat, the comfort, this new generation of Jimnys is super comfortable for him. So he loved it. And he lives in, near Richards Bay in KwaZulu-Natal, and uses it a lot for sand driving, dune driving, and that's when he said no question about it in terms of the performance on sand. There's head and shoulders above many, many different vehicles. So he actually gets a lot of quality performance out of his Jimny and loves driving it.
Yeah. I mean, in the sand, it's really about the weight of the vehicle. Because it's so light, it's really easy to navigate through the thick sand. So they're really good cars in the sand, which is obviously what he said to you in his time in Mozambique, as well as on the north coast of KZN, which is where a lot of our guests like to go and like to take the Jimnys. Places like Cozy Mkosi Bay, and obviously in the south of Mozambique, it's really popular. So it's just well suited to those areas because it's nice and light and easy to navigate on those roads.
Yeah. And the other thing is not just Jimny to Jimny owners, but it's the smile it brings to people's faces as you drive past, as you stop. It's retro. It's a cool looking car, and obviously it's cute.
Yeah.
And it's small, so people are fascinated about how you sort of fitting your stuff in there and how it drives along and stuff like that. And I think it's important to note that, you know, when you're in a common vehicle or another big vehicle, you aren't as fuel efficient or as sustainable as you are in a Jimny. And that's not just to say, it just means that you're having a lighter impact on the environment, roads, pollution wise, space wise, you know, like it's nimble, you can park in little cities and towns and spaces and nip yourselves in and out without clunking around. And I think that's important to note. I know that a lot of international travelers have, you know, God knows how many emissions that they've emitted getting here into the country, but that's the point is that they're here to, you know, benefit the country by traveling around these small quaint places that we've been to and providing jobs for locals. So that's really important. And whilst they're doing that, they are just having a gentle impact as they go along, and that's what your motto is: tread light.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also just on the foreign guys visiting, I think the other advantage with it being a compact vehicle is that, you know, a lot of our foreigners drive on the other side of the road at home, so they're driving in a foreign country on the wrong side of the road for what they're used to. So the Jimny actually helps because it's small and compact and it's easy to manage. So it's one less thing to think about. You know, you're not trying to manage a big, heavy 4x4 while you also at the same time trying to understand where you are, get a feel for the roads, and you know, and just like manage your journey. So I think for many they found it less stressful because it's nice and nuggety and easy to manage. And then of course, you know, the Jimny club thing we find a lot. You know, our foreign guests love it because they like also immediately become part of this club, even though most of them know nothing about it. You know, a lot of our guests comment about people coming up to them and asking them about the car, just like you experienced, and they're quite taken aback by it. But I think once they get into it, it's like, you know, they get like this real sense of almost belonging in this foreign country. It's like becomes like part of their trip, which I think is really, really cool.
And let's talk about the interior experience.
Features.
No, not features. No. Look, we haven't been on a road trip together for a long time, nor have we travelled together. It's so nice to be very close to you, Stu.
Oh, that's good to know.
And I was just thinking to myself, if you were a couple, how nice it is to... is this a good time to review the climate control?
Yeah, we can. We just turned it on.
Stuart's just fiddling at the knobs down here because the conversation's getting a bit too hot for him.
This is the weirdest feeling because it's you know, not hot outside, but obviously with the sun coming into the car, it's warmer in here. So we're sitting in shorts while driving, and it's less than 10 degrees outside. It's quite something.
It is.
Yeah.
It's Africa for you.
But it does have climate control, so there you go. That's the feature.
Yep.
You can adjust the temperature, and it's on the dial, and it's really simple, and that's it. There's nothing more to it.
Well, that's what it's all about, the Jimny, simplicity.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Everything you need.
Yeah.
Nothing you don't.
Perfect.
Okay. Back to the intimacy levels. In all seriousness, if we can.
Yeah.
You know, like often if you're in a Hilux or whatever, we're not bashing other vehicles, but the advantage of being in the Jimny is that you really are close to your friend or loved one, and chat, just experiencing it together, feeling the experience as you go along. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's definitely more intimate, easier to have a conversation.
Yeah.
If I wanted to hold your hand, it's just so much easier just to reach over and just grab it as you go along.
Exactly. But I think it's a good point. I mean, I think you're part of the journey together, and it's the Jimny's it brings you into that, I suppose. And it obviously also very much becomes a part of your trip. That's the other thing, is a lot of people, they almost form this connection with the Jimny, which is quite cool. It becomes a part of the trip. Often guests name it, or
That's true.
name our cars, which we love. We love hearing them when people have named the car. Then you know that it's kind of been part of their trip and they've loved the experience.
Well, that's what you told me when I said of thinking of ideas, and I said, why didn't you give each of your cars a name? And you said no, because it's that takes away the opportunity for your guests to give it their own name on their trip
themselves. Yeah.
So cool. Yeah. So it's intimate. It's small and nimble. It's cute and fun.
Yeah. Simple.
It's simple. It's practical.
Yeah.
It's rugged. Got us up the Sani Pass, through the mountain, and here we are, just cruising along.
What about the visibility out of the vehicle and the kind of the sense of how you can take in the space where you're driving? Because it is, I mean, we have to be honest, it's a boxier vehicle. It's not as aerodynamic as a lot of cars, because it doesn't have as slanty front windscreen. But the difference there is that you end up with quite a lot of big window space, and I think that has quite a nice impact. But
totally. Well, being a driver of a vehicle, I've driven a higher vehicle for a long time in Botswana.
Yes.
And so I think we're not far off, maybe slightly lower, but pretty high up.
Yeah.
And what I was worried about was the stability of it being a smaller car and a bit squarer, as you said. I thought it would be wobbly and unstable. But you told me you put these new shocks in, and it just feels absolutely solid as a rock. Actually, I mean, maybe my shocks are knackered on my vehicle, which is probably the case. But mine feels more wobbly and less stable. This feels, honestly, so in control of the road, and comfortable and secure.
Yeah,
it's just not designed to drive at 140 kilometers an hour on a highway. We know that.
Yeah.
And that's where it would wobble and feel uncomfortable. But on small roads, mountain passes, and in between all the wonderful places that you can drive around in Southern Africa, this thing is a delight.
Yeah. So we do put in an upgraded suspension into the vehicles as soon as we buy them. It really is just because a lot of the time our vehicles are driven.
Big pothole.
Wait, here we go. There's that suspension working. Whee. So what we do find is that so we do change the suspension. We work with a local company in South Africa who's developed a suspension specifically for the Jimny. And then we do also change the tyre size, one size slightly larger, with all-terrain tyres. That just allows people to kind of really travel in, on sand roads and stuff with a lot more confidence. You don't have to worry as much about damaged tyres and so on. And that's also a good point. We do find that because the Jimny's lighter, it tends to be less aggressive on tyres. So we don't deal a lot with guests having tyre challenges, especially even clients driving into regions like the Tankwa Karoo and those areas where you're doing lots and lots of sand road driving for long periods of time. We find that because the car's lighter on the tyres, and we use a slightly bigger all-terrain tyre, that they're very reliable. And then the suspension does have a big impact, especially if the vehicle's got some camping equipment or bits and pieces in it. Then it just sits really nicely on the road.
Cool. Well, we're coming to a village soon where I believe we'll be topping up with some fuel. But there's one more feature we haven't tested out, dude.
Yeah.
Do you know what that is?
No.
Well, because we're in Lesotho, I've done my research.
Okay.
And I've downloaded some local music.
Yeah.
So let's see how this bad boy goes with the. I've heard the audio in this vehicle is pretty good. So I don't know if you're familiar with this artist.
No.
Feel the bass.
This is a good road trip tune.
This is Loko Lang Poho, very well-renowned Lesotho artist, and it drops.
Amazing.
I mean, it's heavy bass. This is probably more of a taxi tune.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Should we try something a bit more traditional?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Taking it back.
Nice. Okay.
Do you think if we stop the vehicle in the village and crank the tunes and open the windows, we'll get it going?
I think so. I think we just keep this going when we find this fuel station, when we eventually find it, and then we'll just hang out.
Get ourselves a Maluti quartz.
Yeah.
1.5 liters of beer.
I said it before, I'll say it again. It's so much fun driving in a Jimny. It's so much fun driving in Lesotho. It's so much fun driving with you, Stooge.
Oh, thanks, man.
It's great to be back on the road with you, mate.
No, it's been good, right?
Yeah.
Especially cool for both of us, having not been here. So we kind of both with fresh eyes, which was really cool.
Yeah. But I would say vehicles just perfect for this kind of place. Big mountains, small car.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And why would you pick Lesotho for a self-drive trip for customers of yours?
Something that really stood out for me is how windy and how many passes there are on that road. I don't think you can experience that many passes and that much up and down through the mountains anywhere else in Southern Africa. So that alone is probably reason enough to come to Lesotho. I mean, it's just like the vistas and the views and the changing scenery with the community areas, especially in the south. It seems to be more in the south. As you get further north into Lesotho, obviously there's more development because it's closer to more accessible from the South African border. But, oh man, that drive was just, I mean, it could have taken me an extra 2 hours and it wouldn't bothered me.
Yeah.
You know, I could have driven that road at 30 kilometers an hour. So yeah, that's what I really loved that. That's kind of what the Jimny road tripping is all about.
Yep.
You know, so
how many times did we come around a corner at the top of another little pass and just go, whoa,
exactly.
Look at the view.
Yeah. And how many times were we on checking our elevation, going, it can't get any higher, you know, and then you go down the hill and then 2 minutes later you're going back up again.
Yeah.
You know, it was just, it was incredible. And I mean,
proper drive.
One thing to say is there's not a lot of, you know, not like in South Africa, there's a lot of petrol stations and that have got shops and everything attached to them. There's not a lot of that in Lesotho, so you kind of just missioning on your own, but it's lovely to drive through those community areas and just like really get that feel of how like Lesotho people lived and currently live. It's a really cool cultural experience. And that's what really separates it from South Africa, I think, you know, and that's why it's very different, you know. In South Africa, you can experience the mountains from the base, obviously the Drakensberg, and you can obviously walk and hike up into them and get a good feel for that, but there's something about being on the top, right? And getting this kind of like cool experience of what it's like to drive through this mountain kingdom. I really think it's well worth adding 3-4 nights to your trip to give you kind of a really cool contrasting experience as you head down to the beach of KZN, and then, you know, if you're going further north to the wildlife stuff of the Kruger, you know, it's a really cool loop that from Joburg to Joburg. There's so many different ways you can do it, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As you said, it's all about matching up the guests that you've got to the type of experiences they want. And so let's talk about where we are now, Maliba Mountain Lodge. But I mean, it's more about the area, right?
Yeah.
I mean, again, it feels like we are in a sort of cauldron of mountains.
Absolutely,
and I sent a few WhatsApp pictures and video clips to our group and to a friend of mine, and they're just like, what a place.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, it's epic, eh?
Yeah, it is. And it's quite amazing, like you say. So you come out of the mountains from in the south, then you get into the north, you go through some of the more towns, and then you turn down to go towards Maliba, and then you just find yourself going back into the mountains, right? And it's kind of like, and then you find yourself surrounded by these mountains. And what I like about it is there's lots of walking and horse riding and that sort of stuff around you. So, you know, if you're spending 2 nights here, you could really keep yourself busy. If you're a hiker and you enjoy walking in the mountains, then it's a really cool place, right?
Totally. But famous for horse riding. Lots of people come and do horse riding trails here. But yeah, we definitely have got to come back and do more hikes in this area. It's just kitted out for it. And obviously it's a nature reserve as well. So we've seen a couple of eland, which is Africa's biggest antelope.
Yes.
That was cool this morning.
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, we just heard it crashing through the bushes, and there he was. That was amazing. Yeah,
and it's a real sanctuary of wilderness and silence. Wasn't that this morning as well?
Yeah.
We're in the valley. It's winter. It's cold, so there's not a lot of bird life, and it was just. It's pristine here. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, while we were walking, and then you just stopped and you said, just listen for a minute, and it almost was similar to what you experienced, like you said, on the Makharikari salt pans, where you almost hear nothing, and it's quite a surreal experience there to try and see if you can hear something. And it's just amazing, And then you've got these mountains that are just like surrounding you. So yeah, a really cool location.
But of course, we're here in the middle of winter.
Yes.
So it is like life is a bit frozen.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Come here in the summer. There's massive waterfalls. These streams are running.
Loads of bird life.
Loads of bird life. So different contrasts, different times of the year. But
And what did you think of the lodge from a stay perspective?
Yeah, I think in all honesty, Lesotho is not as well equipped in terms of tourism. Obviously, fewer arrivals. So I mean, don't expect the most incredible polished service. It's a little bit unrefined and stuff, but the people are very, very lovely and friendly.
They're amazing, right?
Everywhere we've been, honestly, the food has been delicious. So the guys are got some great ingredients, good meat, and the setting of the lodge is just unreal.
Yeah, exactly.
Both places we've been to, Sani Mountain Lodge and here Maliba Mountain Lodge.
100%.
Here, there's nowhere else actually as well. So if you want to come to this area, this is the lodge you got to stay.
Yeah.
The big chalets that you get, what are they called? The
mountain chalets.
The mountain chalets are absolutely beautiful.
Yeah,
like they really are big chalets with 2 fireplaces, electric blankets, the works.
Good for the winter.
Good for the winter. And then for the summer, of course, you've got this lovely little walkway with your own private porch into the valley. So I think setting-wise, outstanding.
Yeah.
But the lodge, I mean, it was built in 2010, so it hasn't been open for very, very long. But it's not going to win awards for decor and interior designing and stuff.
Exactly.
But it's absolutely quaint, gorgeous, and in terms of settings, number one.
Exactly. And I think that's what's important. And like you said with Lesotho is like, and again, what we try to focus at from a trade perspective is the accommodation backs up the experience. Like you're not coming here to stay in this lodge. The lodge is not your tick point. The experience is your tick point in terms of what you want to do and how you want to experience Lesotho. And then the lodge really backs it up. And the hospitality is really great. The people are amazing. So you form good connections. You get to know the people, and the accommodation is comfortable.
Yeah. Obviously, the next leg of this journey, whether you do 2 nights here or 1 night or whatever, but would be Semonkong.
Yes, correct.
Lodge. Yeah. You've been there, you've sold it a lot to your guests on itineraries. What's it like out there?
Yeah, I mean, Semonkong is amazing. So it's further down in the south, and it's also just got an amazing mountain setting, and also a lot of hiking there, and pony trekking, obviously, which is a big feature of Lesotho. So, and there's a beautiful waterfall there, which you kind of trek out to. I think it's the second largest free-falling waterfall in southern Africa. So it's a really cool feature, and you kind of look at it from across the valley. You can also do abseiling there if you're an adventurous traveler. So, there's quite a lot to do down there as well. So it's worth if you want to add time in Lesotho, it's worth getting down there. Again, it's in the south, so it's a little bit less development and so on there. So a really cool place. And the accommodation also is in like little traditional Lesotho style huts.
Yeah, that's been the theme the whole time.
Yeah,
it
is definitely.
I love it.
Yeah.
It really matches the Tread experience of the Jimny.
Exactly. Yeah. So Semonkong is a big one. We love selling Semonkong. It's a really cool property. So
maybe we should go there in December.
Yeah,
get definitely. The summer vibe.
Yeah, get Lesotho in the summer, and then we'll compare notes. We'll be sitting here cooking, not freezing.
We could do it in the late afternoon, sitting in a rock pool.
Exactly.
In the water.
Perfect. Yeah, sounds good.
I think that would be awesome. Great, I've loved it. So what's our best tips for Lesotho? I'd say number one on a road trip with a Jimny, when you're in the Underberg, if you're coming this way from Durban side, pack yourself some goodies. There's some epic little shops in Underberg where you can get rusks. And that's another complaint I have. We didn't plan ahead and bring a flask for tea and coffee to have on our road trips.
No. Technically, we had the coffee stuff in the car because we carried all the camping equipment. I just never told you.
Okay, then full disclosure. Jimnys come equipped with tea and coffee making facilities. Stuart just couldn't be asked. Great. No, but snacks are great because there's also, if you decide you've got the munchies on your Lesotho road trip, there aren't a series of shops and things that you can go and buy some snacks from. So that would be epic. And our other tip is, of course, guys, you got to go on a mission wherever you go. Like if you found yourself in a place and you've got a bit of time, go and have a wander. Go and find somebody. Go talk to people, and also if you feel like you're at a place where it's like they haven't told us we could do this or we can't do that, just ask. The more you ask, people are friendly. You can get it. You know, you want to get up early and have coffee and then go for a walk. And if you want to have a guide or don't have a guide,
exactly.
This is your trip.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, a tip for me is to really take your time. Like, I don't think you do yourself a disservice thinking you can run through Lesotho in a day with one night stop. I think it's, you know, if you really want to take it in and you want to stop on the road, walk to those viewpoints, you know, take it in. You've got to take the time, and it's not worth rushing through on the roads. They're very windy. But that's the experience. So if you really want to take it in, you know, give yourself the day to get from one point to the next, and just take it in, you know, and enjoy it. That would be a big one for me.
Cool, man. So to wrap it up, I know I've asked you this before, but now I get it. And so, why Tread Lite, Stooge? Like, because you know you've always dreamed of doing something like this.
Yeah.
I think, and we spoke about it a little bit in the car. What kind of person matches a Tread Lite self-drive trip? But it's not about you're not about a vehicle rental company. No, you're a travel lifestyle facilitator. That sounds very formal.
Yeah,
but
we're getting there.
Yeah, it's about buying into the experience that you and your team have in terms of choosing the right place to go. But like, give me an idea of an itinerary of somebody who's wants to come to South Africa or Southern Africa, and you've barely done a self-drive trip outside of, let's say, UK or Europe, but you want a little bit of an adventure. Like, what type of a trip, first timer out here, what would you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is, obviously from a trade perspective, you know, we're very experience focused, so we like to try and bring in unique stuff. So we do like to try and push people is probably not the right word, but we do try and like recommend stuff that maybe you wouldn't do if you were planning it on your own. You know, things like Lesotho, Sani Pass. Maybe, you know, that's if you're trying to plan a South Africa trip, you wouldn't necessarily consider doing it, but we like to recommend it and try and, you know, kind of push you out of that comfort zone to experience something really unique. So that's kind of what Tread's about. We also obviously focus very much on minimalist style travel. Like, that's a big thing for us, and that's why the Jimny is such a good kind of companion to what we do, is that it's all about kind of stepping down the big stuff, and that allows you to kind of really take in the simple joys of travel, right? So that's kind of from that perspective. In terms of trips, yeah, we really like to obviously try and engage with our guests before they travel to understand their interests and what they want to do. But yeah, if you're pulling in Lesotho, kind of coming out of Joburg, you know, you could spend a good couple of days in Lesotho. We would recommend doing something like this, going down Sani Pass, taking your time, and then we would really probably push you to go up the coast, maybe to KZN. There's a lot of places up there along the beaches that require thick sand driving, which is kind of a unique experience. Again, something you can't really do without a Jimny. Get you onto those remote beaches, you know, like you could go to the beach in Belito where a lot of people go, or you can go up the north coast of KZN. It's just like, there's not a lot of people there. It's a really kind of rustic beach experience, you know. And then from there you can either go through Swaziland or even a little bit of Mozambique if you want something really cool, and also lots of sand road driving, and then into the Kruger for like a real cool self-drive experience, you know. And then there in the Kruger we like to try and recommend that you stay like in something that gives you a cool experience. So like a bit of a mix between self-driving in the park yourself and then maybe doing like a guided walking safari or something, you know, that really takes you out of your comfort zone. But like, you know, you've walked in the bush before. It's an incredible experience, and just like it really, you can't explain it to someone until they've done it. And then when they do it, they're like, that's why you want me to walk in the bush, you know.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. So
it's about matching up that sense of adventure and that experience of being in a vehicle on your own and being on an adventure, being in a Jimny because you're out there with the Jimny spirit.
Yeah.
And it's taking on your advice of planning the trips, and
absolutely,
your feedback from your guests is fantastic. And we mentioned you can do first timer little adventure, but also you could take that die-hard Jimny fan or 4x4 who wants to try a Jimny for the first time and wants to go on a bigger adventure. You can head off into Namibia, Botswana.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can. I mean, as long as it's all about planning and understanding how the Jimny's strong points and where it works and where maybe it doesn't work, and that's fine. And then we build these really cool itineraries around that, you know. Obviously we've been doing Jimny rentals for quite a few years now, and obviously we're very one-on-one with our clients and our guests, so we talk to people. We always like to understand where they're going when they have in the past traveled on their own. So that's really helped us to kind of build this understanding of where people like to go, and we obviously do a lot of our own research. So it's really all about getting you into the key areas of the country, but instead of staying in like the very obvious places, we just push you out of those places into the more unique stuff, kind of lesser known, a little bit out there that requires just that little bit of adventure. You know, that's our focus.
Wicked.
Yeah,
I love it, mate. Well
awesome.
done.
Yeah,
honestly,
thanks, man.
You've dream come true. You've built this business. You got 12 vehicles now, isn't it? And every trip that you do is unique.
Yeah.
You've got your set itineraries, and I've chatted to some of your customers as if we met those guys in Durban.
Yeah.
It's just well done. You're doing what you love.
Absolutely.
And you're doing what you love in terms of selling these trips, and you're doing what you love now as well, being out here.
Yeah.
I think you actually have ice crystals.
I think I do. I think my fingers are done.
So that's
it's
a wrap.
cold. Yeah.
We are freezing. Thanks so much for the trip, mate.
Yeah. Let's go and get that coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More to come.
Great. Thanks, man. Good job.
Yeah. No, we are committed, dude.